Good day, everyone! We are here again for another lesson. Again, I am Sunshine Izacha, your pre-service teacher from Negros Oriental State University Shatin campus. And today, we will be learning about observation techniques and classroom etiquettes. This is under the Unit 1, Theory to Practice, Observing Learners and Classrooms in Philippine Education System.
According to Edgewood College 2025 and NSW Department of Education 2025, classroom observation is a powerful tool for understanding teaching and learning. While it often focuses on broad areas like classroom management and lesson delivery, it can also target specific concerns such as gender participation or questioning strategies. Choosing the right observation method helps collect meaningful data and improve teaching practices.
So through classroom observations, we can understand how teachers deliver a lesson, how the students respond, and what are strategies that are effective. And it also helps us in identifying the strength and areas for improvement, making it a powerful tool for better teaching and learning outcomes. That's why it is important to first experience classroom observations before we go in the field or before we have internships. And we pre-service teacher from Norso Shatin campus or from Norso, from whole Norso, we strive for excellence. That's why we need to put it in our hearts and in our minds what we have learned and observed during our observation. When we observe a classroom, it's not enough to simply watch what's happening. We need accurate and reliable data to truly understand the teaching and learning process. That's why different observation techniques are used, each providing a systematic way to collect information. But before we discuss the different observation techniques, let us first define what is observation technique.
So what is observation technique? According to Formisano et al. 2024, it is an inventive approach aimed at exploring a particular phenomenon in order to describe it as faithfully as possible and to understand it, paying attention to a specific event and gathering information about it, even as it emerged.
This means that the approach focuses on carefully studying a specific situation or event to really understand what is happening. So instead of making assumptions, the observer pays close attention to details as they unfold. So the descriptions and findings are as accurate and faithful as possible. So there are 6 observation techniques. We have selective verbatim, next is verbal flow, next is sampling, task, class traffic, and lastly tally marks.
Let's start with selective verbatim. So selective verbatim is an observation technique that supports teachers in understanding their communication patterns with students, a fundamental of effective teaching.
This observation technique helps teachers understand how they communicate with their students, which is very important for effective teaching. The observers write down exactly what is said in class, but only within certain categories. This technique, there are categories that we should focus on. For the teacher talk, we have the teacher's questions, responses to questions, responses to statements, directions or assignments, information statements, reward and praise statements, criticism and constructive feedback, and management statements. And for categories of student talk, we have questions, responses to questions, responses to statements, and student-initiated statements. So those are the categories that we should focus on. And remember, in using selective verbatim, medyo tayo focusan nga categories. So we have to write it down what category we are observing. For the teacher talk, their type of questioning, the type of how they praise their students. So this technique is important because it shows teachers whether they are asking more questions than students, if students are actively responding, or if teacher feedback dominates the discussion. By analyzing these patterns, teachers can adjust their communication to encourage more student participation, improve questioning skills, and create a more balanced and engaging classroom interaction.
Now let's proceed to verbal flow. It is a data gathering strategy that provides information about who talks with whom.
This observation technique is used to track classroom interactions. So here, the observer will use a sitting chart with the students' names and draws arrows to show who is talking to whom during the lesson. So this way, it becomes clear whether the teacher is doing most of the talking, or if certain students are more active, or if the communication is spread out evenly among the class. The at-task observation technique is a way of checking if students are really focused on the activity given by the teacher. So the observer looks around the class at certain times and notes whether each student is doing the task or not. This helps the teacher to see who is paying attention and working and who might be distracted. So the information can guide the teacher on how to keep everyone engaged and on track. After gathering at-task data, the teacher uses it to understand how engaged the students were during the lesson. So if many students are off task, It may mean the activity is too difficult, unclear, or not interesting enough. So the teacher can then adjust teaching strategies. For example, giving clear instructions, adding variety of activities, or providing extra support to those who struggle. So on the other hand, if most students are on task, it shows the activity is effective and engaging. The sampling technique is almost like the at-task method because the observer also records what happens at regular intervals. But instead of only checking if students are on task or not, this method can focus on different behaviors of the teacher or students. So to make it easier, the observer creates a legend or code. For example, P for presenting, O for observing, M for managing, H for helping, and I for individualizing instruction. So then, at set times, the observer looks at the teacher or student and records what they are doing using those codes. This way, the teachers can see how much time is spent on different activities. So for the class traffic observation technique, it is about recording movement inside the classroom, who moves, where they move, and why. So the observer here uses a classroom map to keep track of movements, like when a student leaves or enters, when the teacher moves around, or when students go to the teacher. It also notes the reasons such as transitions, asking questions, or getting help. So this makes it easier to see how classroom space is used and how movement affects teaching and learning. So the importance of class traffic is that teachers can use this data to check if movement is helping students stay engaged, like when the teacher moves closer to students to help them, or if it's causing distractions like unnecessary walking around. So tally marks are a simple way to count and record classroom behaviors during observation. So instead of writing down full sentences, the observer just makes a line each time a behavior happens, like when a student answers the questions, or when the teacher praises a learner. So every fifth line is crossed to make counting easier. So in the end, the marks are added up to see how often each behavior occurred. We have just finished learning about different observation techniques. But as a pre-service teachers, it's not only important to know how to observe. We also need to know how to behave while observing. I have gathered 10 classroom etiquette. First, arrive to class on time. Being late shows disrespect. If you must come in late, do so quietly. Second, turn off your cell phone. Calls and texts distract everyone. Never answer during class. Third, do not bring food or meals. Drinks may be allowed, but meals are best outside class. Fourth, contribute to class discussion appropriately. Speak when called, avoid interrupting and let others share. Fifth, avoid side conversations. Talking to seatmates while the teacher is speaking is distracting. Sixth, address the professor properly. Use professor or doctor unless they allow otherwise. Avoid casual names like dude. Seventh, be attentive. If you are in class, be present. Don't read unrelated material, do homework, or sleep. Eighth, stay for the entire class. Don't leave early unless you have informed the teacher beforehand. Ninth, avoid signaling that class time is up. Don't pack your bags or make noises before dismissal. 10th, and lastly, contact the professor when you have to miss class. Inform them politely and never ask if you are missing anything important.
And that would be the end of our discussion. I hope you learned important things. Again, thank you and God bless.